Hey guys, in this episode, I talk about my favorite UFC fights in 2023. I know I'm going to miss some, so let me know what's y'all favorite fights in 2023 in the comments, but let's get right into it. Hey guys, welcome to the False Line Podcast here with episode 188. This is your host, Alvaro. Guys, I took a long break. I needed it, I wanted it, and I enjoyed it. No questions. I had a good time. I did absolutely nothing. Chill with the fam. And just have a good time. Ate a lot of food, barely worked out, played a lot of video games, watched a lot of TV. Like I said, chill with the fam. Did all those things with them, without them. And it was just a good time. And it felt good to get away. It felt good to not post. It felt good not to read comments. It just felt amazing, you know. And I'm ready. I'm ready to get back. Today's, I believe, Tuesday. This episode will go up Friday. So a few days to work with because I do feel rusty and I don't want to fuck anything up. You know, this is my first take. This could, luckily or hopefully nothing happens, but, it could happen. So we're back. We're going to still post Tuesdays and Fridays like usual. Try and post daily YouTube clips as usual. The clips are going to be as usual. Today will probably just be like 2, but from the rest of the week, it'll be 4. And guys, this year, I did a lot of brainstorming. I know I said I took a break, but I did write some things down on what the goals are for the podcast and kind of what I want to achieve with the channel. And I kind of talk about those things real quick before we get into my favorite fights of last year. But the first one is I really want to work towards sponsorships, That's something that I've been wanting to achieve since last year, like really get at it. And I think this year we can definitely do it. If we manage to get some numbers a little bit more higher. I want to start having guests in the video. I want to start having athletes. I want to start having fighters. A good person that I like who does this is the MMA show or MMA Hour with Ariel Huani. I like that he has a setup and he has a TV and he's kind of having a video chat. And I want to have something like that with, other content creators. And I want to have that with, real fighters if we could do it, And that's kind of the goal of the year. And another one, which is every goal, like just keep growing. But that's going to be my main focus this year is really just go at it and try to achieve those. I definitely want to go live as well. I want to go live more or just in general, like just go live and interact more with people. But yeah, those are probably the biggest goals for the False Line for the year. And I think we're going to achieve those goals. But you guys hopefully stick around and see the journey and see how we manage to do this here. But okay, that's that. Again, like I said in the intro, there's going to be a few fights that I'm probably going to miss, but these are my favorite ones. And I didn't want to break. I didn't want to do any research or anything. I said, man, what are my favorite fights that I saw this year that just completely blew me away? And I typed them on my phone, took a screenshot, and then saved it for today. And because those were the fights that I just remembered, right? So if I remember them, I mean, there was something in me that just didn't go away, right? That I managed to remember. So let's get started. They're not in any specific order. Like I said, I just wrote them down and then just, typed it up and here we are, right? So don't want nobody to get all riled up. So first one on the list is Islam Makhachev versus Alexandre Volkanovski 1 at UFC, what is this? UFC 284. Now, excuse me, guys. Now, this fight was very exciting. A lot of people were kind of dismissing Volkanovski off the rip, like, oh, there's no chance. Islam was a favorite. And, this fight, it wasn't like the build-up. It was just the fight itself that kind of just left me, like, wow, right? It was probably one of the most, like, technical fights I've ever seen. The highest level of fighting you could probably see and that I've seen this year by far. And I still think that, even with the other fights that I'm going to talk about. But the buildup was good, nothing crazy. You have a 145er trying to go up and beat a 155er. And for me, I was like, Islam, like, I don't know, man. This guy just beat Charles. He hasn't beat anybody ranked except for Charles. And Charles, like, almost beat these top guys. And you wanted your first title defense is against Volkanovski. So I didn't like that. I didn't like the whole idea. I was very opposed to it. But that's what we got. I was riding with Volkanovski. I still think he won the fight. I know a lot of people think differently, but I think Volkanovski watched that fight. I've seen it probably like 5 times now. But the result was a result. Islam got the best film in the second one, so you really can't say much about that one. But Volkanovski, this was a fight where I think kind of showed how good Volkanovski was, and he let everyone know he's GOAT status, fighter. And to scramble with Islam, to strike with Islam, to stay in the pocket with Islam, to do all those things with a fighter like Islam when you fighting at 145. And yeah, Volkanovski's a big 145er, but he fights at 145. So he moved up to fight a bigger guy. And I know a lot of people going to be like, oh, well, Volkanovski was heavier. I mean, whatever, man. Like, on paper, Islam was a bigger guy, whatever, right? So yeah, for Volkanovski to be able to do those things against or to Islam, with Islam, whatever, it was just impressive, and it was just like, wow. I can't remember fighters that went up and just looked nice, except for Anderson Silva. But he just showed how good he was, and after that, we were like, no one's gonna beat Volkanovski. And he has a big fight coming up, but it's just, we were just like, yeah, Volkanovski's just never gonna lose a fight again. So that's kind of how we felt, and that's how I felt, at least. And Islam did real good, but the way that fight ended, it just left everyone just like, wow, Volkanovski is the shit. And again, it was just like that blown away effect. And I know a lot of people had a mixed emotions, like, oh, Islam won, oh, Volkanovski. And I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about the fight itself, how crazy it was, and how that shit just turned out to be one of the biggest fights of the year. And it was supposed to be a fight where Islam was supposed to run away with a decision, but Volkanovski gets a takedown at the end and has control time and is just beating up on Islam. And it's just like, what the fuck is going on right now, right? So that's why, to me, that fight was such an epic fight, and it was a massive fight just because how the fight turned out and how Volkanovski just stayed toe-to-toe with Islam. Because Islam is probably one of the best fighters in the UFC, if not the best. There's just no doubt about it. And right behind him, I would say it's Volkanovski. But yeah, Volkanovski had a hell of a performance, and he just showed why he's one of the best in the world, and that's why I love that fight. So that was UFC 287, and it was a banger. The next one, wait, what? Okay, the next one we have Brandon Moreno against Alexandre Pantoja. This was UFC 290. Volkanovski also fought on that card. There's another fight on this card that I'm going to talk about. But Brandon Moreno and Pantoja, they went at it for 5 rounds. Moreno broke his wrist, I think, in the first or the second. But, it was like, wow. That was another banger. Like, they just went at it for 5 rounds. That's the only way I can describe it. Pantoja came in hot the first one, tried to put up Brandon. Brandon Moreno bounces back in the second. And then you have a half, 50-50 round in the third. I think Moreno won the fourth. And then Pantoja ran away with the fifth. Pantoja, I thought, was the better fighter that night. And he became champion, right? But it was a back-and-forth fight. And they were just going at it. And it was just like, bruh. And they were landing bombs, and all you see is them wobble, lock in a little bit, and then they were right back in the pocket, just scrapping. And it was just a high-level fight, very, very crazy. Brandon Moreno gets in these crazy fights, always putting on a show, for the people. But it was just one of those fights where it was just, my heart rate had to be out the roof. Like, it had to be up there for 25 minutes. Like, it was just a crazy fight. And what stood out to me is that fight was a co-main, and it was so crazy that, like, when Volkanovski and Yair Rodriguez were fighting, I was just still decompressing what happened on the fight before. I remember I was watching this fight with my girl, and we were just watching it in the living room, and then we were like, man, what the hell just happened? Like, that was just, anxiety was out the roof, And then we go and we're like, hey, for this last fight, let's just go better room. Volkanovski's going to win. No big deal. And I remember I was just laying there just taking it all in still, like, wow, like, that shit really just happened. And I was like barely watching Volkanovski and Yair, and that's when I knew like that fight was insane. And no fight has ever done that to me. Where, and maybe because I love Brandon Moreno, you know, Mexican fighter, that's my guy, my number one fighter in the UFC roster. Maybe that's why it was just like high level anxiety for me for 5 rounds and all these nerves, right? I don't know, but that fight to me, it was fight of the year. And we'll make a video about that, but I mean, that's all I could say about that one. I know I said more about the Volkanovski and Islam, but Moreno and Pantoja just went at it, literally, just round by round. And, I mean, it seems like every exchange they had was like live or die. So, it was crazy. One of my most favorite fights that I've ever seen, ever. And then before that, we had Robert Whittaker versus Dricus du Plessis. And, yeah, I am adding this fight into my favorite fights of the year because Robert Whittaker, I mean, Dricus du Plessis had no business winning that fight. No business winning that fight. The division, I mean, worked out a certain way where now he's fighting for a title shot this month, I believe. Yeah, this month. All because of what he did that night and then how events happened, you know, the rest of the year. So he goes into the fight. I'm like, Robert Whittaker, he's hungry. He wants to give it one more shot at gold before he retires. And he's experienced. He's been in these moments for a while. Dricus du Plessis hasn't fought a fighter like Robert Whittaker, a high-level ranked fighter like Robert Whittaker. And for him to go in there and just turn it up on Robert Whittaker and then just drops him and then finishes him. Boom. And another, that's when you're like, what the fuck? Dricus du Plessis just won, right? And then next thing you know, events happened, and now he's fighting for a title shot against Sean Strickland. You know, and that's why I put this fight, you know, on my list of my favorite fights of the year because, you know, and then it's only because also how events turned out after, but he had to have the best performance he could possible. And he did. He got a knockout or a TKO against a scary man like Robert Whittaker, right? Which no one thought he was going to do. And then he goes and does it. And again, now he's fighting for a title shot. So that's why I love that fight. And I thought it was a banger. Again, that fight was on UFC 290. UFC 290, I made a whole video about it, how I think that was the best card of the year. And I still probably think that. And like I said, we're going to make a whole video about that. So let me just make sure I don't talk about that again. All right, so then we got 3 more to go. The next one is going to be Sean O'Malley versus Aljamain Sterling at UFC 292. This fight was an anticipated fight. We all knew this fight was going to happen. Another fight that I wasn't too happy about how soon it happened because it was pretty clear the UFC wanted Sean O'Malley to be champion. Like, it was pretty obvious that that's what they wanted. And the Sean O'Malley, now, besides my feelings and how I feel the fight's here. Both fighters make weight. You know, they know the consequences, whatever, right? So I'm like, there's no reason why Sean O'Malley should beat Aljo. You know, he had a sloppy, and I think he lost against, what's his name? Peter Yan. So I was like, I mean, he just stands no chance. Like, Aljo's just going to overwhelm him, right? So, but I wanted Sean to win, low key. I've been following Sean for a minute now. And Sean O'Malley walks out to If You Say What You Say. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, damn, like, it gives you chills. I got chills just talking about it. And then he goes out and gets a beautiful knockout in the first round. He catches Aljo leaping. I don't know why Aljo decided to leap here. Catches Aljo leaping, just literally steps back, catches him, and then finishes it on the ground. I thought it was a sloppy finish. But at the end of the day, he got the win. The way he did it, the build up to the fight, the walkout song to the fight. And it was just like, holy crap, like, this was amazing, right? And it was just kind of a magical performance. And as much as I'm not as happy, or I kind of don't really care, you know, how Sean does, just because he doesn't want to give Aljo a rematch. But that performance itself was kind of magical. And it was a moment where, this is a Sean O'Malley. This is a moment where he has always talked about being champion, has always talked about being at this level, fighting at this level, making this much money, and all he needed now was the title, and the fact that he got it in the, with that walkout song and that knockout, and it's just like you couldn't ask for a better moment for Sean O'Malley. And I think for me, that's why I got to put it up there, because, if I talk about being champion and over the years, train, work my way, and now I get my title shot and I get a knockout like that, it's like, it has to be one of the best moments of your life. Like, there's just no doubt. Like, that's what you worked for your whole life. So that's why I had to put it up there. And it was a banger, but, like I said, I wasn't too happy with Sean O'Malley, saying that Aljo doesn't deserve a rematch and things like that. So it is what it is. But yeah, and hopefully we see Sean. Well, we are seeing Sean and Cheeto this year, so we'll see how that happens. But that was a good fight. That's why I have to put it up there for sure. Then we have UFC 293, Israel Adesanya versus Sean Strickland. So it was at UFC 293. So that was not too long ago. Actually, yeah. So this fight, Izzy, and I'm going to talk about the Izzy and Alex fight after this, but Izzy coming off a massive win against Alex Pereira in the rematch. And, coming into this fight, and it's like, who's going to fight next? He was supposed to fight Dricus next. Dricus beat Robert Whittaker. Dricus decided that he didn't want to take the fight because he was fighting an injury. He could have took the fight, but he decided not to. And Izzy made it pretty clear. He said, some people, that might be your only title shot, and you literally said no. And, not nice words towards Dricus. So the UFC was put in a position where, like, well, who's next? Alex Pereira's moving up. Robert Whittaker just lost. Dricus is hurt. And Hamzat's not really fighting. Who else is in that division? Jared, I think he was hurt too, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just like, well, Sean Strickland. And Sean Strickland, ever since then, like, they announced him, he's gained he was already kind of on the rise on popularity. But after that, it was like he became known. He's one of the biggest stars in the UFC now. And no business. Also, this is one of those fights where this fighter had no business being in this fight with Israel Adesanya, but they needed an opponent, and they picked the best opponent they could get, and they got Sean Strickland. And some people do, some people don't. I kind of knew, I kind of didn't, but I knew Sean Strickland, hard trainer, he would train hard. What I'm trying to say, spars a lot, very aggressive. Seen him get knocked out a few times, or like twice really, against Alex Pereira, and I forgot the last one before that. But I was like, all right, this is a guy Izzy should find his chin and manage distance and beat him, right, and probably finish him. And Sean Strickland was like, well, I'll do the best I can, and I'm not supposed to be in there, and we'll just see what happens. That was his attitude, and I was like, good attitude. That's the reality, and it is what it is, right? So. The fight starts, it's going, and it's a fight, like, it's chill. I'm just, like, watching like this, I'm like, man, Izzy's going to win this. No big deal. We're either waiting for Hamzat or Dricus, like, after this one, right? But next thing you know, I don't know what's going on with Izzy. He just said something was off that day for him, but fight's going on. Towards the end of the first, Sean Strickland catches Izzy clean and just drops him. And then he still follows up with some bombs right after. And that just changed the whole fight completely. Like, the whole fight was different. Izzy was hesitating. Izzy wasn't confident. Izzy was, falling for feints. And we just saw an Izzy that looked nothing like Israel Adesanya a few months ago when he destroyed Alex Pereira. And we were just one of those fights that just kind of left you like, what the fuck are we watching? What's going on right now? Sean Strickland, just put it on him, caught him clean. And just stayed disciplined, stayed focused, and won the fight. No business winning this fight. No business to be in this fight. But he managed to get it done. And it was impressive. It was one of the biggest wins in UFC this year, because we all know Izzy has been a dominant champ for a long time now. And the way he bounced back from Alex is like, okay, this guy's locked in. he already beat Alex. They might run it back again. They might not. But, you know, there's no one else out there who's going to beat Israel Adesanya. And Sean Strickland just did just that. So, massive win. Big W. Again, Sean Strickland had no business winning that fight. And that's why I think that was one of my favorite fights of the year. And, you know, Sean Strickland also became like a superstar that year, this year, 2023, past year, whatever, right? So that's why it's up there for me. And the last fight that I want to talk about is Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya at UFC 287, which was earlier this year. So in I think October, November, Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya fought for the first time in the UFC. I think it was their third or fourth encounter in general. But, you know, this was a fight where, you know, we don't know, right? The buildup was exciting, but the fight itself, we just didn't know what direction it was going to go. So fight starts. Both of those guys, you know, come in. Alex looks hella nervous, falling for feints, hesitating like a motherfucker. Just didn't look like he was supposed to be there. Looked like it was just too much for him. And the end of the first, Izzy catches him and wobbles him, right? If there was a few seconds left on the clock, Izzy would have finished him, no question. Rest of the fight goes, Izzy's just kind of piecing him up. Alex has a few moments here and there, and I have to mention the leg kicks. And they paid off in the fifth round because Alex Pereira found, you know, a second wind and put it on Israel and finished him. Early stoppage or not, but I think Israel was done. And that was that, right? So then this fight at UFC, 287, I said? UFC 287. Now you got the rematch for Israel Adesanya against Alex Pereira. And we kind of just don't know now, right? We're like, man, Israel Adesanya hasn't lost a fight since Jan Blachowicz, and that's because he moved up. And now he's fighting Alex Pereira. Like, this is his first rematch. This is going to be, he's want to get this first position where he's like, let me get my title back. And he was very confident that he was going to be able to do it and everything. And everyone was like, I don't know. And a lot of people seem to hate on Izzy. I get it. He can be very corny, and he does things that are very questionable. So it's very easy to hate on a guy like that when he's on top and champion, right? So I was getting a lot of hate, but I'm like, man, I don't know, man. Like, Izzy's just him, bro. Like, he got it like that. And, you know, they showed up. Fight was awesome. I mean, the fight, what is it called? When they walk out and they had their face off and all that stuff, it was like, oh, man, like, this is crazy. I'm not sure what round it was when Israel got the finish. But, you know, there was moments where we saw Alex Pereira, you know, getting close to Izzy, and it looked like the end of the fifth round. You know, but in the second fight, that makes sense. Like it just made it seem like, okay, Alex Pereira looks like he's gonna get this knockout again, the same fucking way with the leg kicks, backing up Israel Adesanya to the cage and just start piecing them up, and he'll just catch him, and Izzy's gonna just fall, right? And that's what it looked like, and we're like, oh shit, like that's it, Izzy's done. Like, this is it for him, right? And that's literally how I felt. Next thing you know, I don't know what Izzy does. Right, you can kind of see it happen, of course, in slow motion. But it's weird. Like, he said he played possum, but I swear he was a little hurt. I don't know. He kind of just steps back, and then he kind of just gets out of the way of one, comes back, the overhand right, just to, you know, Alex Pereira, and just lays him out cold with that one punch. And then you'll see the crazy celebration at the end with the arrows, which is fucking iconic and cold. And one of the coolest moments in UFC, I think, this year. It sucks, of course, because, you know, Izzy lost the title again this year. But it was one of those fights for Izzy where he felt so good. And he said that he would want everyone to feel what he's feeling. And it was just magical. And I was like, damn, that's fucking dope. Like, that whole build-up, all their fights they've had, Izzy finally got it done. He finally knocked him out. We're done, right? And impressive for Alex to go and, you know, beat Jan and then become champion too. And those are probably honorable mentions. Amanda Nunes retires. That's another honorable mention. But yeah, those are my favorite fights of the year. Again, I know there's some that you guys are going to be like, bro, you should have said this or this one or that one. But those are my favorite ones that I can just remember right off the rip, because I was like, man, let me think about some fights that just blew me away this year. And those are the ones that just had me in wow. Again, there was a lot of other fights that we saw that were amazing, right? And I want you guys to tell me in the comments which which ones that like stood out to you guys, right? And any ones that I've said that were like, yeah, that was a crazy fight. So honorable mentions, I'm trying to think who else. Amanda Nunes, Alex Pereira, both of his fights. Amanda Nunes' last fight. Alexa Grasso versus Valentina 2. That was a pretty decent fight. I'm trying to think what else. I think that's it, man. I really think that's it. Guys, I'm sorry. My nose is stuffy for some reason. I kind of been sneezing. I don't know if I'm kind of getting sick or not. I know my girlfriend is, so sorry that I sounded a little off. Also, too, I've took a little break, so it's been I don't usually take breaks with the pod, so I'm kind of in a what is it called? In my own element, and right now I do feel a little off, a little rusty, checking lights, making sure everything's still working and functioning how it's supposed to. So sorry for that, but hey, we're back and we're gonna be posting content on a regular basis throughout the whole year now. And I'll see you guys on the next one. I hope you guys have a great Friday. I hope you guys started off this year strong. And I know you guys have New Year's resolutions. I have my own, and I don't think it's corny at all. I think it's good that we have them, but stick to them. That's the biggest thing. Stick to your resolution. And it's not like, oh, I got to do this all year. I got to do this today, and that's it. And then you wake up every day and say, I got to do this today. I got to do this today. I got to do this today. Just take it day by day. No rush or anything. It'll come. Just make sure you keep working on it on a daily basis. Again, have a good Friday. Happy New Year. I hope you guys had a great time with your family or whoever you spent it with. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.